many perspectives to alternative culture that I can, I think, focus more to the visual, and I will start actually with three images by Leibach, very early images from 1980 and 1981. As I think they can stand here as an introduction to the decisive topics, not only of Leibach, Kunst, but also of alternative culture in the 80s. So the first one is Scream, which you can also see at the exhibition. It was found after many, many years. And what it represents is first how the image actually was made. This means that the production of image, which was not understood anymore as the production of object, but the production of meaning, they were somehow a disturbance to kind of normal reception. So it was made with montage, with appropriation, the term that was already used in that time, a combination of maybe art styles and contents that would be controversial and would normally not stand together. The scream has, which is in this image without voice. Then later on it got a voice. It became a loud scream, a noise, a kind of bruitism. So it also speaks about appropriation of a particular graphic art that could maybe be interpreted as a kind of maybe a socialist realism in a way. This is the print that the first one was made on the basis of this one, just editing this Leibach and also the image of Munch. But these images you can see at a very near International Art and Graphic Center right now, and today at I think at 9 o'clock, at 8 o'clock, Deaknes is leading through the exhibition, explaining how these graphic arts of his father have been used by Leibach, adding their signs, so putting a kind of their kind of mark, stamp. Then the other image is artist condition, and it's again it's introducing that the art actually is not autonomous kind of practice, but is of course strongly connected to the context, to the political context, that the role of the artist and the meaning of art are more than just what we were, of course, and still are the students taught at the university when we study art history. So it also talks about the conditions of production, and it's very, I think it's very important also to know that at the alternative scene, the relations, the manners and the means of production have been changed. And also we can talk here about the collectivism, anonymity, and also that was time of the death of the author. So the authorship in alternative culture was not really stressed. It's a different question now in retrospective when they are trying to clear the authorship. This was also a very, very important image. It's again René Magritte, and it talks about reproduction prohibited in the time, in the age of reproducibility. So when we to use images and to reproduce them was much easier than before. So apart from print, photography, and tape recorder, the Xerox photocopy machine and video were at that time introduced as instant media, very quick production, and somehow not put under the censorship. These were methods of appropriation, ready-made, found and selected images about cut-up techniques and so on. So by introducing this, I will somehow try to explain some parts of just a fragmentic view on this Ljubljana alternative scene. Of course, there were many terms used, different terms, from Ljubljana alternative scene to subculture scene, to alternative scene and alternative culture, to counterculture, subculture alternative, youth culture, and also subculture scene. And they all functioned, I think, at that time as a proper name. So it was like we all know what does it mean. It was maybe similar to civil society, which later on we were amazed that it's not what we thought. It's not what we thought the civil society is, but it can also be many, many things other than that. So not only, in our view, kind of positive relation. So also this alternative scene, of course, has a history which we cannot cover today. But Neven Korda, who was one of the group Fabe, he wrote about it a lot. So maybe if I explain that maybe this was the largest cultural and social movement in Slovenia today, developing far-reaching cultural and social practices in the framework mainly of ŠKUC and Forum. These were two cultural organizations. They were both established in 72. And for example, the student culture centers were actually established after the student protests in 69, in addition to the earlier House of Liberty or Youth Culture Centers in all Yugoslavian cities. In Ljubljana, ŠKUC actually got their own premises at Stari Trg 21 in Ljubljana, which is still the place for ŠKUC Gallery today. So it was important because at that point, I think, not only because I came to collaborate at that time, but it was important to have our own space. So the activities at that time flourished, especially with those sections. So in ŠKUC there were many sections, such as film, fine arts section, music, video, literature, theater sections. So apart from these two organizations that I will more focus on, there are also, as mentioned already today, Radio Student, but also student newspaper Tribuna, and then weekly magazine Mladina, and Problemi journal, who actually at that time, approximately, they were separated to Problemi literature and Problemi theory. And these two main venues were ŠKUC, which later got the name ŠKUC Gallery, and Disco Fabe mentioned today. This network of protagonist relationships and exchanges enabled specific shifts and breakthroughs in the field of culture, and as a space of resistance and civil initiatives, also in the social and political fields. It was a means of self-organization and self-representation, an institution of difference vis-à-vis the ruling ideology and cultural policy, a fight for alternative art practices in their social recognition in the face of what was officially considered as art, the cultural stereotypes, myth and taboos, the contemporary technology and mass media procedures. The development of its own conditions for work, a collective mode of production, a non-hierarchical and non-categorized relations of production, stimulated certain dimensions of artistic and cultural practice marked by the fundamental shift from the understanding of art as the production of objects to the concept of art practice as the production of ideas and meanings. Alternative modes and relations of production were based on the cooperation of diverse protagonists and the intertwining of art disciplines. These were precisely the features that made the art and culture production interdisciplinary, multimedia, transgenerational, and frequently without definition or emphasis on authorship. The extensiveness of collaborations and the increase in production and innovative event venues were most evident maybe perhaps in the event which was called Magnus, Homosexuality and Culture. It was the event in which all the sections or reductions from ŠKUC and Forum collaborated. So it was also financed from a kind of joint solidarity funds, which was also one particular feature that enabled some programs that have not been established within this kind of alternative scene to be realized. This inventory aims in a somewhat maybe idealized manner to present the creative collaborations and mutual support that provided a certain level of security, formed background, and strengthened the position of the alternative and subcultural scene as a whole, while also resulting in its social evaluation. It should be noted, however, that the scene was far from homogeneous. There were tensions and conflicts which proved not a handicap, but quite the opposite. In retrospect, we should also point to a certain paradox. Despite an acquaintance with critical theory and familiarity with the mechanism of ideological apparatuses of the state, there was confidence that change was possible. As time passed, this anticipation of constructive shifts turned into a kind of disappointment and the conclusion that these shifts actually occurred at the time, precisely in the time of those great expectations. Let me quote the reflection of Bogdan Leshnik, president of ŠKUC Forum at that time. After all, the alternative was what it was all about. However, as an alternative to the bureaucratic regime, but not the social state, an alternative to directed culture, but not to public financing, an alternative to symbolic uniformity, but not to the renunciation of the uniform as a symbol, and so on. In the face of all these contradictions, which we can subsume by saying that it somehow still relied on the system, it subverted, it is no surprise that, in fact, it contributed not only to the elimination of formal system, but also to the elimination of itself, namely of the alternative, as a relevant political position which for a time it actually was. After all, in spite of its controversial effects, the scene deserves scrutiny on its own account, because of its production, its innovation, and of course because of the people who created it. So at the time, the ŠKUC gallery, that is actually the activities of fine arts section of ŠKUC, shared the premises with other sections, as I explained. It became a social and cultural space, a production center, and a venue for the most diverse events and projects. The activities of the fine arts section between 1980 and 1985 were led by Dusan Mandic, Marina Grzinit, and myself, who based our work on specific exhibition and programming models, on an openness to new forms of production and artistic experiment, and on well-conceived programs. We organized exhibitions of paintings, objects, photographs, graffiti, Xerox or printed posters, performances, installations, multimedia projects, film and video screenings, slideshows and concerts, as well as symposia and roundtables, reflecting upon events and products related both to mass culture and constructive theoretical and critical practices. I have to mention here that we actually used the expression theoretical practice and artistic practice. So we somehow avoided this kind of discrepancy between practice and theory. The activities evidence an attitude of opposition towards postmodern or modern art, a conceptual shift from fine art language and thought, and an expansion of the field of art and its effects. So this expansion and expanded field was very important as well. Also on Radio Student they had some show that was called We Expand the Horizons. A significant part of the production and presentation was dedicated to the so-called instant media, video, photography, even Polaroid at that time, tape recording and photocopying, which were easily accessible, cheap, quick, and also escaped control, censorship, and limitations on the dissemination of the products. Projects made in these techniques included social and cultural criticism and revealed the functioning of ideology and aesthetic effects. There was a very important book, translations of texts, that was called Ideology and Aesthetic Effect at that time. The new Xerox technology was used extensively in the gallery for public communications, artistic projects for invitation postcards, posters, flyers, and other printed matter that were then placed around the city. The turnabout caused by the gradual infiltration of photocopying devices into all nodes of social life had an incredible impact on artists. So photocopying became a means of expression for many artists, changed the status of copy and introduced a specific aesthetic. It enabled the simple use of pre-made images and, in particular, new procedures of constructing complex images including text and characteristic typography, such as sequential photocopying, cutting, transplacing, enlarging and reducing, repetition, overlaying, composing large images and installations, and inserting fragments from one image to another, which was the procedure similar to the incrustation in video production. The publishing activities of the Fine Arts section ran under the name Galeria ŠKUC, which could be translated as ŠKUC Gallery Edition, between 81 and 86. So this is already one image that is presenting now. So we were publishing at that from 81 till 86 35 art publications, or fanzines called sometimes, and they were published in constructive collaboration of protagonists from different fields and interests. The publishing activities expanded to include music cassettes of punk and new wave bands, as well as live art. The gallery also co-produced and screened art and documentary video projects, and collaborated in publishing the ŠKUC Forum magazine called VIX. 4 issues were published, introducing the so-called art project pages, on which everybody could get space for making their own project. So these are covers of some of the publications. These are pages from the site. So you can already see that what was the reason for, one of the reasons for Laibach concert to be disturbed actually was that at the same moment, on the same space on the canvas, there was one film projected, and in a moment there was actually Tito, how he is having a speech, but on the smaller monitor was video with pornographic scene. So very important was that they, to know that pornography actually was forbidden in Yugoslavia at the time, so you could not get any magazines or whatever, and only you could somehow catch the private Italian television, and you can use your video recorder and tape. I remember that what was popular at that time was figure veneris, which were actually not pornography, but explained different postures during the intercourse. At the same time, the Fine Arts section of ŠKUC made contacts in the international scene. I'm now showing some of the productions in ŠKUC Gallery from the exhibitions. This is from the exhibition by Dusan Mandic, who was active in Gallery ŠKUC as a co-redactor, but who is soon to become the member of the group that was first called Rose Irving Selavi, later changed to Irving. So this is now already how we tried to collaborate with other scenes from Yugoslav cities. And the first one was actually collaborating with colleagues from Zagreb, who actually introduced their way of self-organization and fight for better conditions of production and presentation. In a series of exhibition, activist actions and personal statements, these artists dealt with the issue of the position of art in society, and their radical viewpoints had a great impact on the Slovenian scene. Even more, so this is, for example, Tomislav Gotovac, who had the non-announced action in the center of Ljubljana, saying that I'm the artist and I ask for money. So he was like a sandwich walking around. He was arrested for a few hours, and somehow we could explain them, and somehow we could get very quickly out of this. This is Mladen Stelimovic, which I suppose a lot of you know. And this was very important exhibition by Rasha Todosijevic, performer and connoisseur of symbols and signs. In February 81, he gave the opening lecture to the exhibition, and the poster was actually published, you can see it here, with the title Was ist Kunst, Marinina Kogel. And of course it is after his performance in 76. But this exhibition with this question had really a great impact on Slovenian scene, also on Laibach and Irving. Another important exhibition was by Goran Đorđević, Glasniki Apocalypse Kopije, Harbingers of the Apocalypse copies. They were a series of almost identical semi-dilettante images, copies of paintings he made in secondary school. And I have to say that also we who worked in the gallery were quite surprised, and it took some time that we began to understand this relation that this project actually puts, that became very important, meaning relation between original and copy, and actually what is original and what is authentic and what is copy. An essential element for the foundation of the Laibach group. I can't really talk about the relation between NSK and alternative scene. I would rather talk about particular groups. For them the essential element for the foundation was their environment, in particular the town of Trbovlje, and their meeting and socializing in the secondary school for design and photography in Ljubljana. While ŠKUC initially presented possible institutional support and only later a venue for operation and presentation. In 1982, they had their first exhibition with a concert, but we actually see here their first concert, which was in 82 in Fabe Disco, which was still at that time in student settlement. So this is the image that you can see the previous exhibition by Emil Memon, a painter. You can see this poster that was produced by visual section of ŠKUC, and you can already see the first poster that was still on Xerox and photocopy by Laibach. So this is the poster that actually already made some fuss because of the name Leibach Kunst, but also because it mentioned that there will be a concert of 300,000 verschiedene Krawalle, and this is one of the Leibach Kunst group that was defined as retrospective, futurist, negative utopia. The period of peace has come to an end. This was their invitation card. But before I go further, I would just like, maybe I won't have time for everything, I would just like to say that Leibach was actually then for 2 years, maybe, 82, 83, 84, each year they had the exhibition in ŠKUC Gallery. They appeared at the ŠKUC events and concerts, Rock in Opposition, Novi Rock, New Rock, 82, and later also had a solo concerts. They had the first exhibition, which was environment exhibition entitled Žrtve letalske nesreće, air crash victims, in 81 in Disco Fave, where they also gave concerts and hosted team events. Later, they exhibited after coming from the European Occupied Europe tour in 84 for the last time as a solo exhibition, but they chose and decorated the ŠKUC Gallery premises for the shooting of the well-known interview TV Tednik, which they later appropriated as their most successful video project. Developments on the alternative scene, on the other hand, maybe were more essential for the formation of the Irving Group. Two of its members, Dusan Mambic and Marko Kovacic, already had their first projects and exhibitions in Disco Fave and in ŠKUC Gallery, and as mentioned, Mambic was also a co-head of ŠKUC's Fine Arts section. So he was also the author of leaflets, posters, and publications. Constant socializing at various alternative scene events had probably more important than the fact that they were all students of the Academy of Fine Arts in Ljubljana. Perhaps it was precisely the combination of both aspects, the inadequate study process and the possible platform for action elsewhere and in another manner, that created a group out of these fellow students. And there was the Leibach group with whom they were friendly and who, despite the prohibition on their name and appearance, or precisely because of it, presented a possible model. We shall go quickly. So, just to see the images. This is from the first exhibition in ŠKUC Gallery, which you can see how the Xerox video photocopying technique was used by them, incorporating also the oil painting. And this was another one, just a photocopy procedure that you photocopy one photocopy and further photocopy. So finally you come up with this kind of images that are not recognizable anymore. This was again the same exhibition, and one of the prints they painted on plastic, which later was then destroyed. This is from the second exhibition, and this is again very important invitation. because they were using one, I would say, quite mythic painting by a woman painter in Slovenia, and introducing this, what they still call Leibach cross, and they began to use this title always, Ausstellung Leibach Kunst. And what is also maybe important here is that they published in the invitation card the part of the Zionist manifesto. So they are sometimes called Russian futurists. And from 1913, already here you would have text about the denial of individuality, the use of copies, and of all historical contemporary styles. And at the bottom was the statement that the exhibition represents the end of the era of movement of search of stylistic and aesthetic innovations, and that it is a more mature critical evaluation of art. At that time, as was mentioned today, they already published this convent in Nova Revija. This is from the exhibition and the publication they made at that time. Maybe this huh? Yeah, but I didn't come to Irvin's. Yeah, because this one is maybe interesting. Yeah. These are now so-called graffiti exhibitions, graffiti paintings from Fave by artists who were later to become Irving. And this is from ŠKUC Gallery. And this is the well-known, I suppose, exhibition back to the USA. Not only that texts were published about it a lot, but it was also restaged, I think 2 years ago, in ŠKUC Gallery again.